Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. Very excited for today's guest. She is the CEO of Awesome Outsourcing. And what she does is she helps people to free up time and mental capacity by teaching them how to delegate less than $25 an hour jobs. Very excited to be rocking out with Michelle Thompson. Michelle, hey, are you ready to rock?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Perfect. All right. So we always start off on a good note. Tell me a story of success in your business that can inspire people.
Yeah, this is super timely. So I got this text message today from one of the gals that we hired probably a year and a half ago. And honestly, haven't heard from her in a while. And she just sent over a message that was like, "Hey, Michelle, hope you're doing well. I'm still working with Blake, and I always thought of you and how grateful I am for having this job. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm just one of the many lucky Filipinos you guys have helped. Wishing you and your business success. Have a great day." And that is just made my day, because that's our mission, is to make people's lives better, both the employee and the employer. So that was a definite win.
Right on. Yeah, gotta love when you get those testimonials just out of the blue too, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So now, okay, with the good note also comes the bad note. There's some things that are not going to go as planned. So, through your journey, is there something that didn't go as planned, and what can we do to avoid it or recover from it if it happens to us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll go back in time a few years when I first started delegating. And without even realizing it, I was expecting somebody to be a mind reader. So what I did was, at the time, I had a blog writer, and he was also creating the graphics for the blog. And so I said to him, Noriel, I want you to go out and I want you to find a successful business person and use that for, the topic of the blog post, and make a cover photo for that. And when it came back, I just started laughing, right? Because I don't know if you've seen the picture of, it's a painting where the guy's face is actually a green apple, and he's wearing a black suit with a red tie, and he's got like the
Yep.
hat, and he's holding the umbrella, and it's raining outside. And when you first look at that, like, it's kind of like dark and ominous almost, right? And you don't like it doesn't instantly go, wow, a successful like business person, right? Because it was like raining outside and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I was just like, wow, that is not at all what I meant. It was a complete disaster. And I realized it was my fault, because I didn't explain what I was thinking. And so what I did to fix the problem was I went over to a free picture site like Pixabay or something like that. And I went through maybe 100 photos, and I recorded me going through those photos. I was like, okay, Noriel, these are the photos that I like, and these are the reasons why I like them. It fits in our branding colors. Green and orange doesn't match with pink and purple. So I wouldn't pick this picture because there's a lot of orange in it. I wouldn't pick this picture because I don't like the way that the guy's arms are crossed. He seems very closed. We want something that's more open. I do like the way that this person is smiling. It brings up a pleasant feeling. And so I literally just went through, like, I just random 100 pictures, just typed in like business person, and just went through and explained not only why I liked them, but the reasons why I liked them. Color scheme, branding, font, overall feel, the way the people are posed, smiles, crazy things like that, all that stuff. And, it took me maybe 10 minutes to do that, to record that video. And I sent that off to him. And do you know, in the last 5 years, I've had to change one picture. And if we will stop and slow down and realize, when we get something back that we didn't expect, chances are it wasn't the employee. Chances are I didn't explain well. And so if we can just look at it through that lens and say, okay, what didn't I explain well, and how can I fix this? We will end up being phenomenally more successful.
Oh, really, really smart. And actually using video like that, we do it as well in our business. it is so much easier to explain something on a video. And then also you don't waste any time because, if you get the video wrong, you restart it and you go again. So you're not wasting the time of your employee when the employee gets something, or the subcontractor or whatever it is, they get something very succinct and they can use that. And on our side as well, I love it when every once in a while a client will say that, oh, that's not really what I was looking for. Can I just send you a video? I'm like, yes, please do. Send me a video. That
Yes,
would be awesome.
please. So my two favorite tools for that, loom.com, loom.com, and ScribeHow. Are you familiar with ScribeHow?
No, I use Loom all the time. So tell me about this.
Yeah, so ScribeHow is like if you didn't want words, if you wanted to show somebody a process very quickly, what it does is it records what your mouse does on the screen, and then it puts it step by step and actually like spells it out for you. Go here, do this. And so you have the video, but then it also like types out the steps. So it's an amazing way to do a workflow really
Perfect.
quickly.
Well, I'm going to have to take a look at that then. So now on our journey, we have to get good at what we do. We have to constantly reinvent ourselves in practice. And I'm wondering, how do you approach, the practice, getting good at what you do?
Yeah, you're going to hate this answer, but fail and fail quickly. I am not afraid to fail. For me, I learned a long time ago, failure is nothing more than feedback. And when you look at it that way, you realize that if you fail, it's just data for what didn't work. And so you sit back and you analyze and say, okay, it didn't work this way. Let's try it this way and this way and this way. And what are our results? And then look at the data again. And so, even in like delegating or outsourcing, right? Like, let's say, so it took me like 16 years to get really good at it. And when we first started, I had a couple bad hires, right? And I was like, okay, how did they get through my filter? What did I miss? And it wasn't that it was there was some type of failure on my part, or I just picked a bad apple or something weird like that. It was, okay, that person would have fit amazing in some other culture. It's not that they're a bad person. It's that they didn't fit in my culture. And so if I would have defined my culture a little bit better, I would have naturally polarized them away from me. And so that's just one really good example. And so for me, I just go out and we laugh because we say we take massive imperfect action daily. And it's never going to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be perfect. But just the simple fact that we're taking action, I forget who says it. It might be in the Outliers, but all you have to do is if you can get 1% better every day, that's all you need. And so all you have to do at the end of the day is ask yourself, did I move the business forward 1%? If the answer is yes, guess what? You got a gangbuster business if you continue to do that.
Nice. Yeah.
Atomic Habits. That's what it was. Sorry.
Yeah. I just recently read Atomic Habits too. And I think the one thing they talk about it in the one thing too. But yeah. Wow. No, I love your answer. And I agree. I don't think there's anything such thing as failure. I think it was, wasn't it Will Smith that said you only fail when you quit? And there's lots of mistakes along the way, but failures is one of those things where you really only fail when you're done, right?
Yep, exactly.
Right on. So okay, that's awesome. So now what about you've mentioned delegating a few times. In order to go far, you kind of have to have a band. You have to have people that you can play with. And so I'm wondering, who do you put yourself around, and how do you find good people?
Yeah. So for me, and this answer will vary for everyone, but for me personally, I actually take a look at hiring executive assistants out of the Philippines. And the reason for that is I love their work ethic. I love their culture. English is their primary language inside of schools, inside of hospitals, things like that. So they're also very used to North American culture. So just like we're watching the NBA finals, so are they. So it's a very easy transition. And I can very easily record a video explaining what I want and send it over to them and have them create it step by step. So when I tell people, a lot of times they're like, oh my gosh, I can't delegate because I don't have time to delegate. I already don't have time. Like, how do you expect me to do that? And it goes back to our Loom video, right? You have to do the task anyway. So click record, take an extra 30 seconds and explain why you're doing what you're doing. Do not create the SOP yourself, please. Standard operating procedure. Send them the video. And if I have a template for it, if you guys want it, email me, Michelle@awesomeoutsourcing.com. Happy to send you the template and have them watch that video and create step by step with pictures pointing. And guess what? Now that task is handed off, and save that video, upload it to like Vimeo or whatever. I don't care what you use. And you will never have to train for that task again. And what I tell my team is, everybody's like, oh yeah, that's great. But then how do you keep all your SOPs up to date? Well, guess what? Each person that does that task once a quarter, it's their job to go in and look at the original SOP and change anything that's changed, right? Facebook moved the button over here. No, we can't, that this decision tree doesn't work anymore. We don't do that in our business. So take that out. And what happens is you've created systems for your entire business without you having to do it. All you did was record one task at a time.
Yeah, and isn't it a catch-22 that people say they don't have enough time to make more time, right?
Yeah, because it's a snowball effect. Some people get so bogged down, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. And you're like, it's okay. Just start with one task. And if that gives you 10 minutes, take 5 of it to record the next task and the other 5 to go have a cup of coffee or whatever, right? And now you have 20 minutes. Now you have 40 minutes. Now you have an hour, 3 hours, 10 hours. And it's just this snowball effect. And when we don't put pressure on ourselves, we become far more productive way faster because it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be polished. We don't have to take the time to write it all down. So as a business owner, that's not our job. Our job is to transfer the knowledge from our brain to someone else.
Yeah. Okay. So you've probably dealt with a lot of different responses to why people would not want to delegate. So other than time, what do you think holds people back from delegating their tasks?
Yeah, great question. A lot of times it's fear. And for that, what I mean is, we've worked so hard to build this business up. And if I hand this task off to somebody else and they screw it up, it's going to damage my company reputation. It's going to damage what I've built, my relationship with my client, which is going to turn into loss of money, XXX, right? And so we spin that around in our heads. And what we don't realize is when we tell ourselves that, we become the bottleneck of our business. And so we're not able to help as many people as we could, simply because nobody can do it as good as I can. And so I have to do it all myself. If you can just get somebody else to do it 90% the way you would have done it, that's good enough. And now when we're talking about things that need to be exact, right? I don't want my accountant getting 90%, right? But that would be bad. But
Yep.
So there are some things that, there's no buffer, but other things like, okay, we're going to make a social media graphic and put it on Facebook. At the end of the day, does it really matter that I would have moved the photo 3 degrees that way and changed the font to 14 instead of 12? You know what? Somebody's going to scroll through that and like not even stop, right? And you spent 45 minutes freaking out about the fact that the picture wasn't 3 degrees, right? So, we have to be okay with the fact that if we can get it 90% of the way you would have done it, does not necessarily mean like wake up call. There's more than one way to do things. And just because you would have done it that way doesn't mean that that's the only way to do it. And when you give your employees that freedom, a lot of times they will shock you and it will come back better than you would have done it because now they have the time to do it and your brain space is freed up. So,
oh no, not better. I'm going to work myself out of a job.
That will never happen, promise you.
Yeah. No, that's actually, that's a really, really good answer as well. Cause I think a lot of people sort of like try to make up these other made up answers about, oh, well, I just, I don't know if they're going to be capable, or I don't know if, I have the time to really put it together, all these other excuses. But really, I think you're right. It comes down to fear of losing that task and losing control. And it might even also be of, maybe they are getting busy doing that task that they do really, really well, and they're just scared to move on to the next task of, growing that business, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's their comfort zone, right? That's what's nice and comfortable. And we don't want to step out of that because then it gets uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I mean, because that kind of leads into the next topic, which is, cash flow and keeping the hat full. Because then the next thing is, what do I do next? If I'm hiring people and delegating, well, now that's money out of my pocket going to somebody else. Well, how do I refill that?
Yeah, I love that question. And I'm a firm believer that, if you're going to hire somebody, you should at least 3 or 4x what you're spending, right? So if you're spending $1,000 a month, they should be bringing in 5,000, right? And the way that we do that is by freeing up your time, by not spending your time doing those $25 an hour tasks. Does that free you up to have more, whatever it is, sales calls, more time to bill at $200 an hour or whatever it is? So that's the one part, is that we free up your time so that you can really bill at your specialty and you're not stuck doing the admin type tasks. But the second part is, absolutely 100% use them as a lead gen machine, right? They can be networking for you. They can be sending out emails. They can be on social media and creating a presence for you, creating a brand. And we actually have, that's one thing that we do when we teach all of our executive assistants before that we place them with a company, is we teach them how to do lead generation on LinkedIn and Facebook, so that hopefully from day one, well, now let's be honest, it takes 30 days in the hopper for it to actually start working. But I generate probably 3 or 4 appointments a week just off of that strategy. And, when they're doing it, let's face it, when we do it ourselves, we're not consistent because we don't have the time. And just having the process and the consistency will bring money in the door.
Wow. You're 100% right. When I do the social media myself, I drop things, but I love what you're saying, because when you put it into a process, then your employees are probably less likely to second guess the process as you are when you create it,
Yeah.
right? And I get that. Like, I mean, when I create the process, I'm like, okay, this is what works. You get it all figured out. And then I'm getting work and I'm like, well, I'll just try this, and then next thing
I
you
don't really have
know,
to do hashtag research. It's
yeah,
fine.
oh, just do it this way, and see what
Right.
happens. And but your employee, I mean, if that's their job, that's their job. They're doing it the best way that you already know how. Now, if they come back with feedback and say, hey, I tried this and it worked, well, then now you can make a decision. But they're going to be probably spending less time messing around with your processes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And so like email is a perfect example for this, right? I don't get a ton of emails, but I don't manage my own email inbox. And the reason is I go down rabbit trails that I shouldn't go down. And so I look at the email and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe I could go to that summit. Right. And then I sign myself up for a summit where I'm going to sit and listen 2 days on a thing where I really don't get anything out of it. And for whatever reason, right? Because I went down the rabbit trail. And so I have somebody manage my inbox for me just simply so that they can put them in folders and tag them so that I only pay attention to what I really need to pay attention to. And it goes back to that brain space, that capacity. I shouldn't be using my brain on anything other than, what's super important for the business and what moves us forward. Because you only have a finite amount of energy each day. And if we're not refilling it by doing the things that you're really good at, the things that energize you, it's just a time suck. And then it ends up costing money. And then I am a barrier to the business because I didn't do what I was supposed to.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I'm taking something out of this interview as well, because I think I would like to delegate a lot more of the sales type, especially social media stuff, because wow, is that ever a rabbit hole? You get on social media and your intention is to go and, generate some leads and, make some comments and all that. Next thing you know, you're you're wasting an hour of time on something that
Yep.
doesn't matter.
Yep.
And meanwhile, my time is worth way more than the time of the employees that I would be hiring, I would assume. So if they end up wasting that time, not only do I maybe not even have to pay for it, but even if I do, it'll be at a much lesser rate, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Wow. Very, very cool stuff. Okay. So I'd like to know more about this, but let's get into your guest solo right now. So tell me about what you guys do, and what's exciting in your business.
Yeah, sure. So what we do is we hire pre-trained and vetted executive assistants for upper six-figure, lower seven-figure businesses. And what we do is we come in and we have you record the videos, and then we turn them all into standard operating procedures. And then we use that to train your VA. So day one, they are already pre-trained and ready to rock and roll. So if that is something you're interested in, I would love to chat. You can find out more information at awesomeoutsourcing.com.
So now you said upper six figure, lower seven figure businesses. So these are probably medium-sized businesses, right?
Yeah, it depends on what type of business they're in. A lot of people that we work with are still solopreneurs, and they've hustled and grinded, and they're at 300,000, and now they're capped, right? Because they just can't do anymore, right? They can't wear all the hats anymore, and they know that they could get to 600 if they could just get somebody to help them with X, right? And that's where we come in and really shine. And so we'll take them from mid six figures to upper six, seven.
Okay. Yeah, because I think a lot of your concepts are all very relatable to people who be making much less than that, even just people that are getting started. However,
Yeah,
I imagine that the reason why is because you're actually placing people who need to earn a salary. And in order for
correct.
them to earn a decent salary as an executive assistant, they would need to be in a company that's earning a decent amount of money, right?
Yeah. And the last thing we ever want to do is hire somebody and then offer them a job. And the business owner is freaking out like, oh my gosh, I can't sleep at night because I don't know how I'm going to pay them.
Yeah.
And B, the employee feels that. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I need to go get another job. I just left my really good job for this job, and now I don't have a job. And so you can actually get a really good executive assistant for $7 to $10 an hour, but you have to be super comfortable with, in US dollars, $1,000 to $1,500 a month. That, you know, you have to be able to, hey, I am very comfortable with that number. Otherwise, it's not in your best interest because you're just not ready yet, and it's definitely not in the employee's best interest.
Okay. And so all the people that you guys train are all out of places where $7 to $10 an hour is good, right?
Yeah. So that's typically, and so this is an interesting question because people are like, oh my gosh, why are you paying such low wages? Right. So to put it in perspective, making $7 to $10 an hour in the Philippines would be equivalent to about $100,000 to $150,000 in the United States a year. So that's upper middle class for them.
Wow.
Once you make $2,000 a month in the Philippines, you're considered rich. And it's just because of the US dollar to Filipino peso conversion rate. This is very sad. Unfortunately, people will work for $2 an hour. Average minimum wage for a day in the Philippines is about $7 to $10 a day, not an hour. So when people come to me and they're like, oh, hey, I'm going to hire somebody out of the Philippines for $2 an hour, I was like, okay, great. You're not going to work with me, right? Because my job is to eliminate poverty in the Philippines. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pay them an upper six-figure salary. We're going to pay for their health insurance. We're going to pay for them to be able to afford to send their kids to college so that we can break that cycle of poverty. So just so it's understood, $7 to $10 an hour is actually a very, very good, good wage there.
Wow. I love what you're doing. That's a really, really cool idea. And it's a win-win for everybody around. That's great.
Yeah, what I did was I took everything that I absolutely hated about outsourcing, like all the sliminess of it, and we turned it into a positive. I hated the fact that, people didn't get benefits and we didn't save for their retirement and they didn't have any time off. And I hated that people treated them like it was just a vending machine, like B2 out pops virtual assistant. Like that's not the way it works. They're a human. Right. And so I took everything that we hated and we turned it into a positive and said, how can we change the culture around this?
Yeah, I love it. And I think that you're also taking a lot of the hesitation away from the people on this side of it too, where, even myself, I mean, I feel very, very weird about hiring, overseas and even Philippines and stuff like that. I know I can get people for much less money, but I also worry about, language barriers, and I worry if they're, really committed. I worry if they're going to be around for a while. There's
Yep.
just so many things that I'm not sure of. And it seems like you've got like kind of that in between where you're making sure that you're vetting the people so that when you do place them in, then they're going to be a good fit for a long time.
Oh yeah, we've got a crazy hiring system. So we actually have like a 5-phase hiring system where we put them through 4 different tests and 2 video interviews. So they have to really, really want the job to work with us. And so we honestly, and like I said, it took me 16 years to figure that out. So we don't have a problem with people ghosting us or people just not showing up for work or because we've pre-vetted, like when we go out and we hire for somebody, we're going to go through 300 people to find that top 3 candidates and then the one that we're ultimately going to hire. So
Love it. Okay, so tell me again how we find out more about this.
yeah, sure. It is awesomeoutsourcing.com, or you can just drop me an email, Michelle, Michelle at awesomeoutsourcing, all one word.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for rocking out with me today, Michelle. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks so much, Tim. Have a great day.
Take care. And to the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment. We'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.